Is there anybody there? Not once for yes, and twice for no. Can you tell me your name? Well, my name's Carol Bibby. Spirituality is coming to LCI at the end of this month for a spooky hour. Tune in to radio, and if you dare, tune into Spirit with me, Carol Bibby. Hello and a warm welcome, listeners. I'm Carol Bibby, your host for the next hour on Liverpool Community Radio, talking about spirituality. Whether you're a believer or not, or you're sat on the fence with it, it's a hot topic, and some may say controversial. I'll give my opinion here, find out, then comment. I have two guests on the programme, and it's Tracy Amelia and Darren Hawkins, two very spiritual and well-known mediums. Welcome, Tracy Amelia.
Thank you, love.
And welcome, Darren Hawkins.
Thank you, Carol.
And thank you for coming in to Liverpool Community Radio today. We will be talking in depth about spirituality and what it's about and what it actually means, along with questions that might give some people answers to their thoughts, accompanied by some spiritual and very relaxing music throughout the show.
The views of presenters and guests on LCR, Liverpool Community Radio, are not necessarily representative of LCR, its directors or funders.
Join the radio revolution with LCR, Liverpool Community Radio. www.l-c-r.co.uk.
You're listening to me, Carol Bibby, on Liverpool Community Radio, talking about all things spiritual.
Now I'm a believer, not a trace of doubt in my mind.
Hi and welcome back to Liverpool Community Radio. And in the studio today we have Tracy Amelia and Darren Hawkins, two very well-known mediums. Tracy, can you tell us what spirituality actually is? This is for anyone who doesn't know about the subject or knows enough about it.
I believe that spirituality is a way of life and it's not a religion. I believe it's something personal, and I believe it's something that is learned through life experience and empathy.
That's a really good answer. Thank you, Tracy. Darren, can I have your take on it?
I think spirituality is the way of... it's all around us, really. It all comes down to the very beginning of when religion started, because it goes way before that, before Christianity even, and there's a lot of naysay about spiritualism as well, but it's what we've been fed over the years through all other religions, but it's one of them things that you take it into your life or you don't. You either give out what you've got within your heart and what and about that really. But yes, it all goes back quite some years as well. It goes back before God, like I say, and it's just a way of life for everybody as well.
I think it's if people choose for it to be a way of life.
Yes.
You know, it's it is
it's a mixture, really. It mixes in between religions and, you know, all that sort of thing. Yes.
Would you say it's a religion, though?
Years ago, it was more known as a religion, but nowadays, like you say, it's gone more commercial, hasn't it? Commercialised. Yes.
I think so. But Tracy, can I bring you back into that? Would you think that it's a religion?
Years ago, it was known as spiritualism, so therefore it was a recognised religion. Nowadays, it is known as spirituality is known as a part of you.
Yeah.
And that's the way that we should move forward with spirituality. Spiritualism originally grew with great success, and then through time and control and lack of discipline and lack of understanding, commitment and patience, it slowly fell apart. And I think we can say that with a lot of religions.
Yeah.
It's not as disciplined as they used to be in all areas.
No.
So now people have to adapt their own belief system that fits into their own way of life and what works for them, not necessarily what works for other people.
Yeah, because it is actually a very personal, one-to-one thing, and I don't think people actually realise that. Can I ask Darren your take on that?
It's private within everybody else, I think. There is always a bit of spiritualism with everybody else, but they don't show it. They show either whatever religion they are, like if they're Catholic, Christian, whatever. It's not actually give out as much, but they do have like the spiritual church nowadays, which a lot of people do go to and do believe. But yeah, it's all within. Yeah, it's more within the self, I would say.
Right. Okay, Tracy. Do you want to comment further on that?
Of course, yeah. Many moons ago, there would be things like home circles, seances, and they grew into the spiritualist churches. And the churches grew all over the country, all over the world, if you like.
Yeah.
And many people would use those places as a base to go for guidance, for understanding.
Yeah.
And I believe that the churches were used for people to go to develop their belief. I am very much, believe that we have all got a different job to do.
Yeah.
We've all got a life purpose. Whether you work for the light or whether you work for the dark, we've all got a life purpose. And the spiritualist churches are just a base where you can go to learn that little bit more.
Yeah, I think we were having a conversation this week on, spiritual people need to be around other spiritual people, to sort of like feel replenished and, because it is a one-to-one, but what I'm trying to get across to the listeners is you still need to be around other spiritual people too, So I want to ask you another question, and that is, there are many subjects and different forms to spirituality. Can you tell us some of them, please? I'll take that to Tracy.
Okay. Well, my area is spirit related, as in mediumship. Now, there are other ways of describing spirituality through Catholicism, Church of England, whatever your preference is. But my preference is mediumship.
Yeah.
And I believe that when you are a medium, and anybody can be a medium, because all it means is a mediator for the spirit world, for a universal life. That's all you are when you're a medium. Yeah. You're just channeling energies from another source through you to another source. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, because some people say it's like a two-way telephone conversation, really.
That's right.
Darren, can I bring you in on that?
Yes, it's very, very universal nowadays. We're getting into the point where universalism is actually coming in to the world as well. And as we say, for different forms of mediumship, there is quite a few forms, like the other lady was filming right next to me now. So there's a few like trance mediumship and materialization mediumship, which now it's not as very popular as it was going back like 60 years ago, which I look just like to say, like my grandfather, he was a trance medium. He was well known for over 50 years. He used to take a home circle at his house, and people used to come to visit from all sorts of arrays of life, and even skeptics and other people used to go in non-believing and come out completely believing what they've seen, and even up to he even had like Catholic bishops going in there and going to see it, very, very sceptical, and come out absolutely 100% believers.
I am going to be talking about non-believers and skepticism.
Yes.
Further on in the show.
Yes.
So we'll talk about that then.
Yes.
You're going to be editing this, aren't you? So that's all right, is it? Right. Jingle.
Music.
The views of presenters and guests on LCR, Liverpool Community Radio, are not necessarily representative of LCR, its directors or funders.
Join the radio revolution with LCR, Liverpool Community Radio. www.l-c-r.co.uk.
You're listening to me, Carol Bibby, on Liverpool Community Radio, talking about all things spiritual.
Now I'm a believer, not a trace of doubt in my mind.
Welcome back to Liverpool Community Radio, and I think the next question is, what are ghosts? Can you explain, possibly, what an actual ghost is, Tracy?
Yeah, first of all, I'm more afraid of the living than I am the dead.
Oh, that's right.
A ghost is something that you shouldn't be frightened of.
Yeah.
The films have made an interpretation of a ghost, like a white figure, if you like, something that's very spooky and goes ooh in the dark. And it's nothing like that at all. A ghost is a spirit. It is an energy, and it can form in many ways. So many energies can shapeshift. So we can have things that look like a friendly ghost, like our friend Casper, or we can have something that looks very, very dark. So a ghost is just energy that moves and manipulates according to its environment.
That's a really good answer, is that, Tracy? Thank you. Darren, can I have your take on that, please?
Yeah, a lot of people think all different things, obviously, because they get fed a lot of things off like television and films and stuff like that, as ghosts being like really, really, really scary and stuff like that. But when you get into spiritualism, you see spirit as a certain sense, a certain type of energy, like the other lady was told me just now, and how I feel, it's spirits are built up with what you give out. I feel like it's an energy which is built up through ourselves. Ghosts can also be as well. Sometimes it can be the figment of the imagination as well. It depends on how people feel within their mind. If they're like, there's like mental people who are sick, who
mental health.
Yeah, mental health. Yes, who are like they're seeing things through the mind and they're thinking it. It's because obviously they're sick within themselves, so they're going to see things as a different thing. They're gonna think they've been seeing things, but they're not. But
I have a question to that though, because if somebody went to the doctors and said, "I'm hearing voices," and I'll just say what's it, it is actual spirituality.
Yes,
and the people don't actually know it's spirituality, that they get a white ghost and they get locked up in hospital.
Yes.
It is actually spirituality, but people just don't understand that.
Oh, there's a lot of people who actually do think that as well. They actually think, "Oh, am I going mad?" and all that sort of thing. But there's genuine cases where people do actually see ghosts, because ghosts are real, and scientific evidence has actually been brought through by high scientists, high people in the hierarchy of scientists, that they've actually found out that ghosts are actually they are real, but ghosts are here for a reason, and it's a reason for around the surroundings where they are, why they're there.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes.
I mean, I did hear an article, actually, which I'll quote it, is before a person died, they give their consent in a hospital to be weighed.
Yes.
And then when they died, they weighed them again, and there was about 6 or 7 pounds lighter.
Yeah,
and it's like science is now looking to why is that?
Well, I was looking in the magazine a while ago about the psychic magazine, what's local around all this area, and it was saying that they put millions of pounds into testing spiritualism and scientifically testing the minds of mediums to see. Scientific research for this to see if this is a load of rubbish and if it's actually 100% truthful. But me within myself, I know it's truthful, so let's see what they say in futures to come.
Well, it's like, like any faith, it's good to have faith, and I think, like, when you're spiritual, you want to be spiritual, then it's good to have that bit of faith, isn't it?
Yes.
But science used to look at something like they needed to see a brick and the cement, and now it's changing. At least is that. Tracy, can I have your take on that question, please?
Yeah, well, first of all, you can't confine a ghost into a room and ask it questions.
No.
So scientifically, we're not going to get anywhere, to be honest. So there may be too much money invested into experiments, which we know we're not going to get anywhere. Spirituality is through life experience. It's something that grows over time, and it's something that will continuously change as well. And it will change with the way that we perceive things in life, with the way our universe is growing, in the way that we are developing as a society, as a community, with ourselves.
I agree with that as well. I do have a question here that I do want to ask. A lot of people say that if they seen a ghost, it will kill them or they will die of shock. I've heard people say that myself, literally. So what do you think the fear factor is, and why are people so scared? Because there will be a few listeners out there that think that. Tracy?
Well, through my experience, I can tell you that the majority of mediums would run a mile if they seen a ghost as well.
Uh-huh.
It can be a very frightening thing, especially when your perception of a ghost is something that you do see from the telly, or you do see off
When
the
it's
film.
mediarised and it's like,
Yeah.
builds up as something like
Yeah.
that's dark and that.
You can't imagine what doesn't already exist. It's there, and it's something that you have to accept. It just is. Going back to the scientific approach, you're never going to get any results because we just have to accept that it just is.
Can I just ask on that question that you have your 7 senses, and spirituality uses then 7 senses? So in other words, like somebody could like sense, feel a ghost, or they actually see, or they could say smell the perfume that their grandma was wearing, hypothetically speaking. So it's like the 7 senses. Do you think science would pick that up with the 7 senses rather than... Because you can't... People say you can't see spirituality, but I say that you can. Mm-hmm. Would you agree on that as well?
I think our senses are intuitive, so we can give a description that is the psychic way. So most definitely we can research, we can experiment on the senses because it is intuitive. Spirit, on the other hand, is something that we use our intuition to connect with the spirit world. So we're all psychic, but it takes that little bit more effort and development and understanding and sensitivity to connect with higher levels of spirituality.
That's it. It is on a higher level, on a higher vibe, but it's not something that you can command. It's something that you tune into, and it's like, it's not, like if you're on telly, say, and they want it mediarised, and they want, that spirit to be there and something to be said and all that lot.
You
it's not
can't
like
summon.
that, is it?
You can't summon a
no.
ghost. You can't do it. I mean, there are ways, there are tools. I'm not going to lie. You can bring Ouija boards and things like that into play. You can use all different types of tools to connect with the spirit world. But my belief is that if your intentions are good, and you're not setting out to manipulate in a negative way, then I feel that you can get some fantastic spiritual evidence. But sometimes it's abused, and the lack of knowledge and understanding out there is creating people to abuse the movement a lot more. So we do need to get it out there that it's not something that you mess with. Ghosts are not something that you mess with.
No.
And depending on the state of mind that you're in as well. Our friend spoke about mental health earlier on, and we can say through conditions such as schizophrenia, paranoia, we can relate this on our level, through my experience and also through my research, that these are negative energies, these are negative ghosts, if you like, that are just very bored and are attracting themselves to a person who's in a very dark place at that time. And unfortunately, no medication, no counselling, no therapy that the earth can provide is going to pull them out of that place. And that's why we have long-term conditions of schizophrenia and paranoia. We need to take the spiritual approach and bring in things like meditation, understanding, relaxation, awareness on all different levels that are going to help with such mental health too.
I really do agree with that. So Darren, can I have your take on that?
I would say ghosts, about people being scared and stuff like that. It's within the own person, really, who actually think. With ghosts, a lot of the they're all different energies. They're just all different they're all different life forms and stuff like that, and they all have different energies. They can obviously be bad energies, but I would like to put something in here about Ouija boards. It's not a right way to go down to. If anybody asks you to ever do one, I wouldn't go down that place, especially if you're feeling like the negative mind. I would just keep away from that, because there's been a lot of problems with them sorts of things in the past.
There is people that say if you're trained in the Ouija board,
Yes.
use it right with the right love and what have you.
Yes.
But also there's people that say, like,
Yeah.
that they'll just use the Ouija board, and a lot of people, I'm sure the listeners know,
Yes.
that it can be frightening, the word Ouija board.
Yes.
But they've had bad experiences and what have you.
Yes.
I agree with you. I think
Yes.
possibly I'd stay away from an Ouija board because
Yes.
of the perception of it. But at the same time, there's lots of other different tools that you can use, isn't there?
There is.
That like spiritual cards.
Yes. Yeah.
And
Angel cards and tarot
t-
cards. Yes.
Tea reading, tea leaf
Yes.
reading,
But
the
I just like.
occulty
I
and the
just.
saucer.
I'd just like to give something else on Ouija boards as well. I was speaking to my friend Harry, and he's been in the. He's a medium as well, and he's been in the spiritualist movement for quite some time, over 40 years. And he said to me that he knew a bloke who did a Ouija board once in the house, and there was a couple of them around the Ouija board, and they were asking for people to come through, and suddenly just out of nowhere the chair, the armchair went up in flames by itself with no one there or nothing, no light and no fire or anything, just literally went up in flames by itself. Yeah, so that's why we should stay away from things like that, really.
I think
if you don't know about it, especially.
No, that's right, because if you don't know about anything, my
can be
motto
dangerous.
is
Yes.
go and find out about it. Find absolutely everything about it first, then make your mind up and do
Yes,
something.
yes.
So I have to say that for like people, that might run out and go and get an Ouija
I've
board now and
heard
try it.
personally some horrific stories what happened with them.
same
So
here.
yes.
Right. Tracy, have you got that take on that, please?
The views of presenters and guests on LCR, Liverpool Community Radio, are not necessarily representative of LCR, its directors or funders.
Join the radio revolution with LCR, Liverpool Community Radio. www.l-c-r.co.uk.
You're listening to me, Carol Bibby, on Liverpool Community Radio, talking about all things spiritual.
Now I'm a believer, not a trace of doubt in my mind.
Tracy, what would you say to non-believers, excuse me, that mock or go on about spirituality as if it's non-existent or others, or there's always an explanation to the supernatural, so to speak?
Everyone has their own opinion, their own views.
Yeah.
And I totally respect those who don't believe. That's absolutely fine. But don't mock it until you've experienced something first. And if you haven't ever experienced anything in your life, then that's absolutely fine.
Uh-huh.
But I'd be open-minded that there is more out there than what we can see to the physical eye.
I think that because I think, like, sometimes, people say, like, when you die, that's it, and there's nothing.
Yeah.
But, like, I think to myself, like, you've got a brain, you've got an heart, you've got your kidneys and your liver, and your blood's being pumped round, and your waste comes out. How is it, to me, that I think that the human body is a machine, and then the spirit comes down and has a body experience, for learning purposes or whatever that it's here for.
Absolutely.
So, Darren, what's your take on that?
What I think is a lot of people don't believe things until they actually see it and see the actual full physical proof of this sort of stuff happening. But I'm the same as Tracy, really. I'm quite I accept people who are really, really sceptic and don't believe, and they say that's a load of rubbish and all sorts like that. But I've got nothing against people who don't believe in it, but I try and help give them evidence to make them believe. But I'm not trying to make them believe as you don't have to believe if they don't want to, but they can listen. Yeah. I
just think that, if people are sceptic, then they have, like, questions in their mind, otherwise they won't be sceptic.
Yes.
But the thing is, I think, like Tracy's right, and yourself, is to have an open mind about things.
Yes.
And I think finding out, asking questions is the best thing, because then you get them answered, and make your own mind up from there. So I'm going right back to your experience. Can you tell the listeners how you first found out or discovered you were a medium, Tracy?
Yeah, I certainly can. Both my mum and dad are what I'd like to say old school mediums.
Uh-huh.
So they've been in this work for many, many moons.
Uh-huh.
And I grew up with it.
Yeah.
I was an only child, so I was taken off to spiritualist churches. I sat in many different groups, transfiguration groups even. I've seen some fantastic phenomena over the years.
Can you just explain transfiguration as a button though, please?
Absolutely. Transfiguration is when the spirit, if you like, takes over the body. Many years ago, we used to have evidence such as ectoplasm material through the body to show that the spirit is taken over.
Yeah.
Nowadays, transfiguration is like an overshadowing. It's when the spirit decides it wants to use our body to communicate with the earth. And they can do that in many ways. They can do that through direct voice or through transfiguring the physical body, so we may see a change in face or change in the structure of the body. They may like to use us as instruments to come back and tell us a little bit about what the spirit world's all about, or a little bit about what's going on the earth at the moment as well.
Right. With that, you've experienced a spirit coming into your body.
Yeah.
Would you say that was a frightening experience or a very calming one?
For myself, it has always been neutral. It's never always calm, and it's never always frightening. I've experienced both sides of the coin, and I'm quite happy to have experienced that as well. People believe that spirituality is all love and light, and unfortunately we have to accept that sometimes there's a dark side there, and that's just exactly the way that the world is. So I'm kind of grateful that I've experienced both sides of the coin, and I've been able to understand that and give people that understanding too.
Yeah, that's a definite, is that. I think that, you know, there's a light and dark, but there's like positive and negative.
Yeah.
So the positive goes into the negative to come out into the positive, but sometimes you've got to go through the negative to be positive.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know, it's I think it's a learning curve.
Yeah.
And it's the same way anything that people are into in walks of life, you'll have that anyway. So it's nothing different from anything else that people do. You know, that is sort of like they're a bit unaware of whatever. I find it like the same, but that's for people to come to their own conclusions. Darren, can I ask you about that question?
Yes, spiritualism in my family goes back before the 1900s, but I've heard many stories of me great nan. Going back into the 1930s, which she was the president of the Spiritualist Church in Birkenhead, going back all that time. How I first heard about spiritualism, I wasn't really into spiritualism. I was a Christian. I am a Christian myself, but I have spiritual views. How that first happened is when I was a child. I used to feel things and see things, and I used to get scared really because I didn't know anything about spiritualism because I was only a child, but. How I first got to hear about it, my granddad used to tell me stories when I was about 15 onwards about the sit-ins and the seances he used to have in his house, which was a little house in Gainsborough Road. On the Overchurch. He held sit-ins there for 50 years, but he used to hold these trance sit-ins, and he used to have people come from all over. He had like doctors, he has physicians, all sorts of brain surgeons. He had all walks of life, really, police officers, and people. He started out and going to all the different spiritual churches, like Wallasey Spiritualist Church, which was the one which he used to go to, was the one which was knocked down. But he went to a few of the other ones that are still going now. But there used to be another one in Wallasey which was knocked down because it had problems with had asbestos in it and rot. So they got rid of that Spiritualist Church because it was too. It got condemned in the end, and all the money from that moved to Mount Grove and Birkenhead. But yes. It all goes back to that, and how my granddad first got into spiritualism is he got an old-fashioned tape recorder, which was the old reel-to-reel ones, the very first ones that came out in the 60s. Yeah. And he was finding that he was hearing his dad talking to himself in the bedroom, and he thought, "Oh, is he ill? He was probably thinking, "Oh, has he got a mental health issue?" But he thought, "Oh, I'm going to try this. I'm going to take a tape recording of this in the actual outside the bedroom and see what I get." So he tried it. He recorded it, and when he played it back, he had a lot of EVPs, and he was hearing his father, but also he had his mother, who died in 1946 while this was in the 60s, talking over it, saying I've just passed over, and it brought a lot of emotion on him, and he thought, that's definitely 100% my mother, that. And that as well, and then from then, in the when I was 18, after that spiritual occurrence, when I was 18, that's how I knew about when I first got into the spiritualism, when I actually seen a trance service in my dad's house, my granddad's house.
Listen, I'm going to have to butt in there, mate, but
yes.
that is really interesting, is that?
Yes.
I'm going to have to move on. What type of things go on in spiritualist churches? Are you involved in the local ones, Tracy?
Ooh, big bag of licorice all sorts goes on in these churches.
Yeah, it's a good way to describe it.
Absolutely. Some good, some not so good. But isn't that just life?
That is, yeah.
When I was a child, my first visitation was from my great-grandmother, who was standing in the living room pulling tongues at me. That lady stayed with me all the way through my development, and every church that I went to, she would show herself to me, and it will give me great strength and confidence, because I felt that I needed it within the spiritualist churches.
Yeah.
Because as a medium, you're very vulnerable.
Yeah.
You're very sensitive, extremely sensitive. So when you're in a public setting, you've got to learn how to protect yourself, look after yourself, and find that reassurance from like-minded people too.
Yeah.
Some churches over the years have given me that career boost, if you like, on my spiritual path. The churches are used to launch mediums, to get them up, to get them out there, to get them known. And I've had some fantastic experiences in the churches, lots of different phenomena. And then I've had some that are not so good. And that's been a big part of my spiritual journey, the spiritualist churches, and I'm grateful for everything that they have brought into my life, whether they be good or bad, because I've met some fantastic people through the churches too.
I'd like to add that I have as well. You know, you get your good and bad in all walks of life, so you'll always get one old fuddy-duddy, say, which I won't mention any names, always somebody that's like grumpy, do you know. But the majority is that you can get some really nice. I've met some lovely, wonderful friends, you know, through spirituality and that.
Absolutely.
So, Darren, what's your take on that?
Yeah, as it is with all mediums, you get your good mediums and you get your bad mediums, because some of them, a lot of it really
bad mediums,
yes, yes, I know, yeah. A lot of them are actually in more for the money than anything, and that's what actually that's why some people come in. And there's such thing as cold readings, which has been going on well before into the early 19th and 20th century. It's like years ago with the trance mediumship. They used to there was a lot of these fakes and phonies. What used to like make fake ectoplasm and stuff like that, and they used to charge people to come in, and they were just it was all a fake.
I think sometimes it's people like that, you know, that profess to be spiritual but aren't spiritual. They're not coming from the heart. They're not coming from love.
Yes,
you know, that will exploit people.
Yes.
It is a question where you know, if people sort of like scepticism, or they've walked away because they've come across people like that.
Yeah.
The question is go and find somebody that's absolutely all right, that's not charging through the roof like some people do, and that are genuine, that you don't give out any information, they tell you, not the other way around. Tracy, your take on that?
Yeah, the spiritualist churches, because we recognise the word church with religion. Yeah. There are a lot of people these days who will not walk into a church building of such sort because they're worried about what they're going to face. So I decided to change the movement and bring a spiritual school. My business is called Eternal Law. And we have had many students over the years who have developed on their own spiritual path, in their own time, in their own way. And they've not been frightened of coming to see me, because there's been no word such as church to frighten them off and make them think it's a religion. They know it, they can just be themselves, and it's their way of life.
I think you're right there, because sometimes if you mention religion or else you mention church, because of, you know, I will be a bit controversial here really and say about born again Christians, they put their foot in the door, they put both their foot and body in the door, and people are legging it away. You know, if some people are going to think that that's what it's like, it's not at all. It's a personal choice of, you come along, you see what it's like. If it's for you, it's for you. If it's not for you, then walk away.
Absolutely.
But I think, you know, spirituality at some point in anybody's life will come along, and it's their choice. And I hope that people will sort of like have a really good look at it and find out about it first before there's any negative comments. Or, I mean, spirituality is a brilliant way of life. It is a path which I believe is, and I know Tracy and Darren will agree with this. When you're on your own path, your own spiritual path, you're on the right path. And, you know, a lot of good things happen. I'm not saying everything's going to happen, you know, and it's like, what do you call it? You know, if you step off the beaten track of your own path, then things happen, you know, and every day stuff always comes along and that lot, but it is a good way of life. Darren, can I ask you that question as well, please?
Yes. Yeah, about that as well. spiritualist churches, the name church, it does. You're right. It does. It scares people because, as well, another thing as well. I just want to put this out here that people who are thinking about going to the spiritualist church and are scared of thinking that when you go into a spiritualist church, there's going to be like a load of people gathering around in a circle and loads of ghouls and spirits all coming around them. They've got it wrong there, really, because I think that's what a lot of these people in the Christian church have actually thought. They're thinking that we're going to go worship something really, really dark, and we all get around in a circle and do like really bad things against people.
Like we're going to put black
it's
robes
totally
on
different.
and round a fire and that.
Especially for the there's a spiritualist church in Egbert which is called the Psychic Truth.
Yeah, I know that well.
Yes, and what it is, it's a Christian spiritualist church. They all have hymns like a normal church, and all it is, it's hymns, and it's with mediumship as well. You get the man on the rostrum or the lady on the rostrum, and they give you little things about your family in the past. It's nothing bad to hear. You can either, it's one of them things. You can be open minded. You can either want it or you don't want it.
Back in a minute.
The views of presenters and guests on LCR, Liverpool Community Radio, are not necessarily representative of LCR, its directors or funders.
The new sound of the city, LCR, Liverpool Community Radio, www.l-c-r.co.uk.
You're listening to me, Carol Bibby, on Liverpool Community Radio, talking about all things spiritual.
Now I'm a believer, not a trace of doubt in my mind.
Right, last but not least, I hope, is what would you say to anyone who wants to look into or find out about spirituality? Tracy.
First of all, I'd say definitely follow a spiritual path. Don't knock it until you've tried it. There are many ways that you can reach certain mediums or certain people who are involved in the spiritual movement. Kind of open your mind and see where you're drawn to and see what feels right for you. Because there are many of us out there who have got different jobs to do, so not every medium is right for you. Kind of ask as many questions as you need to, do as much research as you can, and you'll find you'll be drawn to the right people. Like I said earlier, Eternal Law is my school, and I will offer as much help, experience, teaching, guidance as you need. We do a lot of clearing work, a lot of cleansing, a lot of healing. It's not always about the messages, the private sit-ins and things like that. It's the other work that's involved in spirituality too.
Definitely. I think it's a holistic, which means it's like a full way of life with all sorts under the umbrella of it, isn't it?
Absolutely. There's so many different aspects to spirituality, and you can find it under my umbrella, and I've got a fantastic team of people that are in my life who can give you the answers even if I can't. And it's not just about the dead. You can learn about the living first and foremost. You can learn about yourself, and then the rest is up to you.
That is brilliant, that. Darren, can I have your take on it, please?
Yeah, like I was saying then, the most important thing with spiritualism is to learn to know yourself before you go into spiritualism, because the most important thing is yourself. Meaning, obviously, there's family as well to look after, and there's all friends and all that sort of stuff. But you need to look after yourself first, and then you should go into spiritualism, but be very, very wary, and like you say, you take some and you lose some.
That's
be
right.
very careful who you hang around with as well. That's another thing.
That's right.
Yeah, because there's a lot of people who are not trusting as well.
I understand that. Like, I've known people that's gone to one spiritualist church and had a look and then thought, oh no, it's the wrong thing to do. Go to a few, speak to a few people, get to speak to one that will, sort of like talk you through it and what have you. And I think that would be fine. That. Tracy, can you give your details of where you are, please?
Yeah. At the moment, we're currently looking for a permanent base. Other than that, I'm mobile, so I'm all over the country, but you can get me on 07904 583 006 if you need any help whatsoever. You can also find me on Facebook under Tracy Melia, used to be Doyle.
Yeah.
Give me a little message there if you need any help or guidance. But you'll find that if the spirit world needs you to come to me, you'll find that we'll just bump into each other.
As on that, very quickly, there is no coincidence. You know, if people think, oh, that was a coincidence, I've just bumped into somebody or whatever, I always believe that it's meant to be.
Absolutely.
I don't know what the listeners will think to that, but that's my opinion. Darren, can I have your details, please?
Yes, if you'd like to get in touch with me, anything to do with about spiritualism, including past things which have happened within my life, or as well about mediumship or psychic abilities or readings, you can get in touch with me on psychicdarren on Facebook, and if you want to give me a call, there's a call button on the top, and just press call and you can go straight through to me. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. So I think unfortunately, it was only an hour's show. It was very riveting. I hope the spiritual message has got across to the listeners. And if any listeners have got any questions or they want to contact Liverpool Community Radio on the subject, please do so by phoning in. It's online. If you put on Liverpool Community Radio, it is online. It'll come straight up. Or drop a line. Thank you for listening today. I was your host, Carol Bibby. And hopefully this subject may come up again at some point. I really hope it does. Goodbye and God bless.